At Vinton County National Bank, we believe in supporting the areas where we live and work. Now, we'd like to honor those who also serve our communities. Our new Community Champions account is especially for first responders, veterans, active military, and anyone employed in the fields of healthcare or education. This account offers rewards, discounts, and other benefits to those who give so much to others. Vinton County National Bank, rewarding those who serve.
Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at belisiofoods.com/careers.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the morning show right here on Main Street TV, where it is Thursday.
It is Thursday.
It's Thursday,
Yeah.
And it's like the week has just flown by.
Sure has.
As we head into the Labor Day weekend, the official end of summer, unofficial
end of summer.
Summer.
Boo. It is starting to feel like fall out there.
I'm going to tell you, I walked outside last night just to let the dogs out. And I told Jamie, I was like, this is a little depressing because this is just like a precursor of cool weather. Like, you know, like I understand it's been hot and whatever, but when it gets like cool at night, you need to put a jacket on to go outside.
It got down into the 50s last night.
Yeah, I'm not really digging that because I know how much I hate cold weather.
I mean, I'm ready for fall. I'm not ready for winter, but I'm ready for fall.
Yeah. Why can't we just live in a constant spring and fall?
Yeah, I don't know. Spring's not my favorite season. It's so rainy. It's still cold.
Very allergy too.
Yeah, I mean, I know everything's blooming and that's pretty, but
the birds chirp and
I'm a fall. I'm just not a spring.
I would say fall's probably my favorite season too. Yeah. It's other than you know what's coming, which is winter. But
I was like, Santa Claus?
Santa Claus is coming. But no, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's starting to feel Apple Festival-y.
Oh, it sure is. Watch it heat back up to 95 for the Apple Festival.
Right, exactly.
Except for the 2 days that it'll pour rain the whole time.
Right. Except for all the parades.
Yeah, it'll rain on the parades and be 95 degrees every other day.
Yeah, that's true. But no, it's going to be hot this weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Did you see the blue moon last night?
No, I missed it.
It was pretty cloudy.
I was going to say, it was really cloudy. I guess typically it would have reminded me if I had looked out the window, but it was super cloudy, so I just don't think it was as vibrant.
Yeah, I went out about 11 and you could see it okay, but it was still pretty cloudy.
I'm hoping tonight it clears up. I think you'll still be able to see it tonight too.
I think so.
And hopefully it's a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
It's not this morning, but
no.
Maybe it'll clear out by then.
It's going to be cool tonight, and sun's supposed to set kind of early, so maybe
we'll see it.
Yeah, we'll see.
The blue moon. Did it really look blue?
It was very bright.
Blue moon.
Ooh, doo, doo, doo. Dylan, you know that song?
No.
So all right. So Dylan all right. So we're gonna put Dylan on the spot here. We were talking yesterday about Dylan having to give his first speech.
Yes.
They're in speech class.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, it didn't go real well.
Dylan, you practiced.
Well, okay. So it went okay, sorta. So
sorta.
Okay, sorta. Oh my gosh.
So normally I would get nervous in that kind of situation, but I didn't feel nervous at all when I first got there. I was a little unprepared because I forgot to print out my papers and I forgot to do my flashcards. So when I got there, I was like, oh, I need to get this done real quick. So I was rushing around and getting it all done. And everybody was doing their speeches. And for the most part, everyone was confident. But she ranked it from confident to least confident. So progressively, it went from like super confident, like doing all well.
Like in what order you gave the speech in?
Remember the anxiety test we did?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like the most confident person went first?
Yeah.
And the least confident person went last?
Yeah.
So where did you fit in?
Where did you fall?
About the middle, but a little ladder in the middle. So
was like the 9th grader the most confident?
I think the most confident was Ethan's friend. Okay. So not Ethan. I don't remember the guy's name, but his friend.
It's just Ethan
Crabtree. Ethan, yeah.
Ethan's friend.
So Dylan dropped another bomb about this class earlier, in that Porterhouse's granddaughter is also in this class.
No, how funny.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, she's in there.
So anyway, all right, so long story short, you felt confident until you got up in the front of the room, set your notes on the podium, looked up and saw 20 people staring at you.
Yep, very true.
Did that happen?
Yep, I got
up
there.
You got nervous?
Well, I was not nervous up until I looked up and saw everyone's eyes on me. Like all their eyes were directly on me. And yeah, just like that. But like more helpless. They were also scared because they knew they were next.
So what happened?
So I read my speech and I was doing really well, and then I just completely blanked and forgot what I was going to say next, because you have to memorize it. So I just completely blanked.
Did you just make stuff up?
Yeah, I just started saying, like, at first I was like, yeah, Griffin lives with his parents, Ryan and Vaughn. And then I was like, wait, what's next? And I was like, he
lives in a pineapple under the sea.
Under the sea.
I just started saying, like, yeah, he's a real athletic guy, and yeah, he's real energetic.
No, you didn't.
I did. I made it to my 2-minute marker, though.
Oh, Dylan.
Well,
maybe we should not make him practice. Maybe we should.
No, I think we should have made him actually come up here and stand up with his head cut off.
The next time you have a speech,
we'll put him in front of the green screen.
Yes, can we do that?
Yeah, next time you have to practice a speech, we're gonna make you stand up in front of the green screen. And then we'll put you like in the ocean or something.
Can we put him like we need a
put him in the
we need a fake podium.
We'll put him on the Seinfeld background and we'll put a laugh track over his speech. I
love it. I love it.
Cool.
So did you get like graded on it, or is this just like your first practice thing, or how did that go?
It's our first one, so I think she's lenient, but you are graded based off of like how well you speak and how confident you are. And if you hit the 2-minute marker or not.
So did you do all of those things?
I think I spoke like confidently up until I forgot my words. And then like I hit the 2 minutes.
He spoke confidently until he
didn't.
Yeah. Up until about the halfway point. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Did you just picture the audience with their underwear on?
I did not do that.
Well, maybe you should try that.
Remember that some of these people are freshmen in high school.
Exactly.
You gotta be careful. Look at him getting her head over there.
Oh,
he's hiding behind the computer.
That's true. That could get you thrown in jail.
Yeah.
15 will get you 20. That's a line in a Buffett song.
Oh my.
It really is.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you. No, yeah, now I'm the one turning red.
Love it.
Yep. Matching my t-shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So our good friend Sam is here.
Yeah.
So Dylan, okay, the next time when is your next speech?
I would guess next week.
Okay. Well, we will practice here.
Yeah, keep us updated.
All right, I will.
Hopefully there's not a paper bag and note cards involved.
I don't think there is.
Okay.
Find out.
My favorite speech I ever gave, I strangely enough got a really good grade on it. But so my freshman year, you go to college and you get like assigned a roommate.
Sure.
So she was a total pothead slut.
Was that what your speech was entitled? My roommate is a pothead slut?
Well, no, but she was my muse for my speech was about marijuana.
Ah.
And I had her roll me a joint because she was real good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't like marijuana in it. We used like fake something. I can't even remember. but I had it in my pocket and I like whipped it out and the whole class was like, because I was like, who knows what this is? And everyone went, and I'm like, it's really not.
And then after
I
class,
lit it up.
And after,
no, I'm just
and
kidding.
then after class, you sold it to a freshman for $20.
But no, that was my favorite speech just because it freaked everybody out for a second. But
that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it was good. But she was my muse. Needless to say, she didn't even last to Christmas and dropped out.
Yeah. It's the way it goes for some people.
Probably went back home and became a bigger slut and pothead. She was nice, though.
She's cool.
Anyway, she is all right.
Yeah. So anyway, our good friend Sam.
Sam, do you want to come over and talk about your college experiences of sluts and potheads?
I shall give up my seat to Sam.
And 15 will get you 20.
What an introduction.
I'm just on top of things today. Hi, Sam.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where is River Roasters Coffee Company?
It is in Pomeroy.
In Pomeroy.
Yeah.
That makes sense because Pomeroy's on the river.
It's on the river.
Yes. No, our good friend Sam is here, and we are going to talk about something today and whatever you want to talk about.
You don't even know what it... Did you not look at your notes?
I just did.
I sent them over this morning. Did you?
I sent them over this morning. Why did you not read this entire booklet of stuff? I mean, it's like 20 pages of stuff.
Oh, I know. I was like, oh, I'm going to condense this. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And I'm like, all right, well.
I get it. No, and this is a topic to not take lightly. And it's a topic that is a very... I mean, I think it has affected pretty much all of us in some way.
And it will affect the largest population in the U.S. currently.
Yes. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy
because of
stuff.
the boomer generation, is obviously one of the largest generations. And so they are the ones who are turning into the older adults. They're the ones who, have to kind of be on top of this for sure.
Yeah, and what we're talking about is dementia-related illnesses and things like that. I think we all know somebody.
Yeah, and a lot of folks think that it's an umbrella term, but there are actually multiple, sort of levels and different, aspects of dementia as well. So.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah. A lot of folks think that, dementia could be like a natural part of aging, but it's not. It is a cognitive dysfunction. Basically, it is not a disease. You basically start to lose the ability to think, to remember, or to sort of reason anything, right? Like your reasoning skills are starting to dissipate as well. So, we see the silver alerts and we get we see these little Facebook posts like, oh,
somebody's missing.
Yeah, somebody's missing. Or you hear those stories of oh, I got home and I looked outside and my mom is out there in her bathrobe. And it's like, well, it's the middle of winter. Yeah. So that is not cognitive reasoning, right?
Right.
And it basically it just it goes to the extent of interfering with someone's everyday life.
That makes sense. And so there has to be, but there's so many different levels, right?
There is.
And I know it's scary for, people that are aging when they can't remember. I mean, I do it. I can't remember. I look at someone, I've talked to them 100,000 times. I can't remember their name. Sometimes I'm like, so it's like, oh gosh, are we here or are we? That's just I forgot something.
Yeah, my brain is not an episode of Cheers. I do not remember everybody's name, right? I don't remember that at all. You said it was different stages, and so from the mildest stage, it's basically oh, I'm forgetting my keys, or I'm forgetting like I said, just going outside in the middle of winter in a bathrobe, right? But then there's to the most severe stages when that person is going on walks by themselves and you start to lose them and they need a caregiver 24/7 basically. So, yeah.
Yes. Well, it can be rough on everybody.
Yeah. Oh, definitely rough on the caregiver, especially because you're under that constant. Yeah, you're under the constant fear that something is going to happen to your loved one,
Absolutely.
and you don't have any control over that because they can't even control their own mind, and so they might leave. They might some of their behaviors might be aggressive, and I mean that might turn into be anger. That could be of the sexual nature. That could be just. I mean, you just never know. You really don't. I mean, there are ways to sort of see if you are at a higher risk as far as knowing whether or not you have, like, I think it's like the 19th chromosome, I believe is what it is. There's
really?
Yeah, there's you can have that genetics test to figure that out.
Where would you get that done?
Your doctor. I've actually had I think maybe we've mentioned it before, but I did have a genetics test through my doctor to try to like figure out medications, because I wasn't being receptive to some, and some were like changing not just my mood, but my ultimately my entire mental capacity as well, right? And so when they do the genetics test and they can kind of see, like, is this person clinically depressed? Is this like, what does their body metabolize medications better with? And so in that test, they can also find
other markers or other things, and it's interesting that you said that, because one of my best friends that lives up in Columbus, last time I went to visit her, she was feeling a little down, and I said, what's going on? And she said, well, I've come to realize that I've been taking this medicine for, anxiety and things like that for years, and I went and got a genetics test, and it's not even close to what they told me that I should actually be taking and whatever. So they were trying to flip her from one to the next, which, if anybody's ever been on any anxiety medicine or whatever, you understand that that's a very difficult situation. So,
right. And I mean, it can take the time. I mean, I know folks who have gone through, 6 years or so of medications, right? Like just trying to change, because it takes such a long time for that medication to even start actually making the effect that you see. I mean, usually it's like around like 6 months, right? Like,
yeah.
But but then within the first 30 days, they tell you, you have to, like, if you are going to wean yourself off, or you have, like, if you're going to go off of that medication, a lot of these SSRIs and different things, you have to wean yourself.
Yeah. And it can get ugly.
Oh man, it's hairy.
Yeah.
Especially, Zoloft, that is, don't quit that cold turkey.
No.
That is 100% true.
Yeah. Not a good deal. But we digress a bit, because, but no, genetic testing does have to do with that. So types of dementia, let's talk about that for a minute, because I know, you think of Alzheimer's.
Yeah. That's probably, I would say, the most common that everyone is sort of familiar with. But there's also vascular dementia, and then there is Lewy body dementia.
Never heard of that.
What, the Lewy body?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think we mentioned earlier that was, or in the radio station, that was what Robin Williams ended up having.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of the, so it is one of the most common causes of dementia after Alzheimer's, and vascular. It typically begins after the age of 50, but can also occur earlier. It involves the abnormal protein deposits called Lewy bodies, which are balloon-like structures that form inside nerve cells. And then the buildup of the protein alpha brain's having a little fart moment there. Alpha synuclein, I think is the word. And then other proteins cause neurons to work less effectively and then die. But yeah, the symptoms may vary, but over time, people with these disorders develop similar cognitive, behavioral, physical, and sleep-related symptoms.
So I think one of the saddest things is obviously, folks that are younger that you see develop this, and you just wonder, what in the heck? Is it genetic? Is it something that they did in their lifetime that, whatever? But I know that in the Lewy body, I was reading a little bit about it, and is that the one that they say can kind of be close to Parkinson's?
I think so. Yeah. It's basically in dementia with Lewy bodies, the symptoms can be seen within a year of movement. The symptoms called Parkinsonism, including tremor, difficulty with walking and posture, and rigid muscles. In Parkinson's disease dementia, the cognitive symptoms develop more than a year after the movement problems begin.
Okay. Yeah. So, Michael J. Fox is obviously the poster child of Parkinson's and, his struggle with it and all of that and trying to kind of bring awareness to it.
I think he just did a movie too.
Did he?
I think so. Basically like playing himself. I don't think playing himself, but basically it's a character with Parkinson's. Mm-hmm.
He's been quite a advocate for folks and then struggling with it himself. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and it's also, I know we've probably all laughed and made jokes at some point, but it's really, for someone who has to struggle with that, it is definitely not a laughing matter. The closest that I've had with someone with Parkinson's was one of my best friend's dad, and it was just a very sad thing to see this strong man,
yes,
literally dwindle down to skin and bones, and not being just not being able to hold himself together. And then of course the dementia had set in and stuff as well, and just became super hard for my friend to do the daily care. And we talk, that sometimes is the most hardest, right, on the caregivers. And so you just have to make sure that if you are in that position as a caregiver, that you're also taking care of yourself.
And that's easier said than done.
It is.
Because if you are a caregiver, sometimes you get, you just care about the other person, and then there's no one left to care about you, or you feel that way anyway, or you put yourself, behind that person. And a lot of times caregivers end up sick,
burnt out when you don't even want to be burnt out, or your mental health might start to deter, and you might become less calm, right? And so you might become a little more short-tempered, and and maybe if that's happening, who knows what can happen to the person that you're caring for if you forget something because you're in a rush or whatever it might be. So yeah, self-care is definitely important if you're a caregiver.
Yeah.
And a lot of times to try to think about that when I am, because I had mentioned to the guys at the station that I'm doing that with my father right now, going through a lot of this sort of thing, and I'm like, you just have to make sure that I remember that what they tell you on the airplane, you pull your mask down and you put your mask on first.
Yeah.
Because then otherwise you can't help or save anyone else if you are also struggling to be saved.
Right. So. You have to save yourself first, and then you can help others. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about early detection of some of these different, you didn't call them diseases. What did you call them?
Basically just lack of cognitive functioning. Okay. Essentially, it's, it's not a disease, but it's just a deterioration of the brain.
Okay.
Essentially.
So let's talk about early detection, because that brings us back to what you and I both said. Is I can look at someone that I've talked to 100 times and be like, what's her name?
Right. And you're trying to ask everyone else around you, and they're like, I don't know who that is.
What am I doing? Oh my gosh. And it happens to all of us. Or you walk in the kitchen and you think, why did I walk in the kitchen?
That happens to me every time I walk into a cooler. Right. I think it's the environment change really is all it ever is. The pressure change.
Yeah. And so I think things like that are normal, even though they can be a little bit scary and whatever. So how do you know the difference between, I walked into the kitchen and I forgot something, or I can't find my car keys because I had 7,000 things on my mind and I set them down somewhere and, whatever, or I'm in trouble here.
Right. I think one of the biggest is obviously we've mentioned it, forgetfulness, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's when the forgetfulness is paired with other things like communication challenges, right? Like if someone's having a hard time communicating what they want, or even as far as like confusion, if it just turns into like, well, what do you want? And then they say, well, I don't know. And then maybe the confusion part of it all is also remembering things that happened to them as a kid, or, these little like jots of memory or even trauma memory, right? Like can just be like brought back. And that's what they're remembering, or they think they're in that period, that time period, if that makes sense. Cause they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go down for instance, my friend's father would say something like, oh, run down to the store and get me a can of Coke, and it would hand my friend a nickel or something, right? Like it's something
like this is what happened 50 years ago, not
right. And it's basically
ago.
like living in that time period or trapped in that time period. And some you see, videos. I'm a scroller, right? Like when in the mornings, you're like, I'm reading all these little these reels or whatever they are, and so I've seen some where like people are like super withdrawn, and a lot of that can happen too, right? Like you just become sort of withdrawn, and then all of a sudden they start playing like a music note, or they playing something from that era, or they give them something to paint, or what, like maybe they were an artist. I saw a video, something like that, and it sort of just brings them back in to into that like happy moment. And a lot of that is actually derived off of like one of the 4 pillars of holistic, like to deal with this sort of thing holistically. And it's dealing with changing the environment, it's nutrition, it's activities, it's conversation. Like these are 4 things that we can do before it gets like too bad, but these are just little things that you can do. There's also new breakthroughs with medication. Like Yale just did a study, and it basically takes the cognitive function, or restricts the cognitive dysfunction by like 24%, I believe. So it slows down that process, so you don't see as big of a jump. So like from 1 year to the next, or 1 month to the next, you might not see like a huge decline.
We have a family member kind of going through this situation right now, and this is a man that is so funny and outgoing and making jokes and teasing and whatever, and it was like all of a sudden he just brought it back, and nothing. Like is that like a defense mechanism?
I think so, because a lot of it can come out from that confusion that we talked about, right? Like there's,
so they just
and they're not
withdraw,
sure. They're not sure if, because maybe something scared them, right? And because I'm pretty sure if you can notice that, like they understand what's going on, right? Like they have an understanding. Those in and out pieces, they kind of have an understanding of what's going on, but they're afraid. And so like you're saying, like they just sort of withdraw in, and maybe they don't want to, but then maybe it is part of that cognitiveness that made them who they are, that is making them revert back into something they're not.
Yeah. And I think like, this individual, he's amazing. And, we were at, on vacation, and we were walking, and he was trying to tell me that he got wiped out by a wave. And we were walking and talking, and he was just like, and I was like, you got knocked down by a wave, and he was like, yep. And it just like couldn't get the words out. Like, right, I know what happened. I was there. Like, I just couldn't spit out what I was trying to tell you.
Right, but then he might be able to spit out something that's super detailed, right?
Yeah.
But something that an everyday person could tell the story of. Like that's where you start seeing that, that difference, when and you should sort of be aware. And I mean, again, we talk about this every time I come in here, but preventative care is the most. Yeah, it's the only way that you're going to find out what it is in the beginning, right? And to try to get it early. That's the other important part, is just trying to detect it early. If you are feeling like you're having some issues, like don't ignore it. don't ignore it, because ignoring it just allows it to fester and become kind of worse for everyone.
And I've said this a million times here on the program. If you have, you should mesh very well with your healthcare providers.
Oh,
and you should
100%.
be selfish about that. And I mean, listen, we all know that there are people out there that, you do your best, but sometimes you just don't mesh well with them. And if you go to your family doctor or you go to whatever, and they don't sit down and with you and listen to your concerns and have these, discussions with you, you need to find somebody else.
Do you know what the average time? I think we've discussed it before, but do you know what the average time is for a doctor to see a patient?
What?
6 minutes.
Yeah, that's not like, I just went to see my family doctor, and she sat down with me, and it was like we talked about, life things too, and concerns about the world and whatever, and just like anything but in that conversation, I remembered concerns that I had about myself. Because you go in, and if you don't write it down, she's like, okay, what kind of concerns do you have? Oh gosh, there's like 100 of them, but I can't think of anything right now. And so within that conversation of just talking for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, I remembered some things, and then we discussed those, and I just didn't feel like I was rushed out of the room at all. And
right, you control.
That's how you should feel when you go somewhere.
Right, and you can control that. If the doctor seems like they're in a hurry, don't be like, I don't care, man. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm here right now, and I know they're here right now too, and you're probably backed up, but like, I'm here right now. And right. I got my butt in my car and drove to your office. So, and
for a lot of us, it can be, over 30 minutes of a drive to get to the doctor's office. Sure. So, especially here in rural Appalachia.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't feel comfortable with the person that you're seeing, whatever, whether it's a specialist, your family doctor, whatever, find somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and age is the primary risk factor, right, for developing dementia. So, course, for that reason, the number of people living, I think we talked about this earlier with the boomer generation. Yes. It could double with, in the next 40 years as the number of Americans age 65 and older increases to more than 88 million in 2050.
Yep. So it's going to be a big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Some of the risk factors, though, I think we've kind of mentioned loosely, though, is genetics, age, your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. For sure. Alcoholism has a higher risk of bringing on dementia as well. So as we always talk about balance, it's okay to have that wine or that little Busch Light every once in a while. Busch Light. But then, just do it all in moderation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, some people are fortunate to have family members that are caregivers. Some people, aren't. So this goes back to the caregiver thing, because sometimes caregivers, there reaches a point where, a family member can't be the caregiver anymore. Mm-hmm. That's rough.
Well, yeah, because it can take, it can take an emotional and physical toll. And when you align those two together, that's terrible, right? But if you can kind of have someone who is caring, but isn't necessarily connected,
correct,
right?
Then, kind of from the outside in.
Yeah, it can kind of, that physical stress might still be there, and some of the mental, but there won't be that emotional tie, if that makes sense. And so,
they're
they
can look at it from a subjective standpoint.
And some are good at being able to sort of just, leave their work at work, but for the most of us that I know, we can't. But yeah.
It's hard. When you're a big old softy, it's hard, huh?
That is true. It is.
But so what are some of, I guess, the signs that dementia is a thing?
Yeah. A lot of, again, we talked about, you were saying forgetting, certain faces or things like that. But if it just becomes like a repetitive thing, and if it gets worse, if it's everybody that you're forgetting,
right?
Like it's not just like, oh, I had lunch with this person or I've seen them 100 times and I forgot their name remotely because you hadn't seen them in a while. But it's like if you woke up one day and you're just like, who's Dylan? You see him every day, right?
Who is that guy?
Yeah, right. Like that's where you start noticing like where it's becoming an issue is when it's people that you actually know and have like a, camaraderie or familial face with.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the other one is changes we talked about in mood and behavior. Sometimes that can be aggressive and, that can sometimes be sexually aggressive as well. Not just, anger or lashing out and those sort of things. So.
Okay. So there's different. So just if you know that human and they're acting completely different than how they would normally act, maybe that could possibly be a sign.
Yeah. And, if you are a child and you're worried that your parents or something is, go to the doctor's appointment with them and talk to the doctor as well. Like, if you have questions, you're allowed to go with your parents and ask the doctor questions. Myself, I'm the medical power of attorney for my dad. So sometimes like, I don't want to feel like I'm like, I don't want my dad to become embarrassed, right? Like in front of the doctor. So sometimes I utilize my own healthcare time to ask the doctor about my father's healthcare, just so that he's not there. And it's like, well, I can actually get a straightforward answer.
Sure.
Because my dad, if you can, believe it, he's a big cut up. So, he's always trying to like, that's his coping mechanism. He's always trying to like joke and, all this sort of, and I'm like, shut up, dude. Like we're trying to get information.
This is serious stuff
here.
Yeah.
Like this is like, I'm trying to get information. Shut up. So yeah, it's just kind of, it's a system that works for me. Right. And maybe it might not work for everyone.
Sure.
But yeah, there's some things you can do. Yeah. Even the loss of ability to speak or like just hold a conversation. Like we were talking with your friend, right? Like, well, what's a wave? Like everybody knows that a wave, like, right. But it's that sort of tip of your tongue can't think of what the word a wave is, and again, if that just sort of compounds with everything else, with the general loss of memory and cognitive, if the change of environment can even, knock someone off. Like if they go from one thing, it can bring back a traumatic effect, just like it can anyone who has gone through trauma, right? But when you are not having the ability to cognitively function 100%, then it's almost like I don't know. We've seen sort of how folks with kind of autism can kind of react to certain stimulations, right?
For sure.
So you can kind of see that more heightened sort of reaction from them as well. Yeah.
Okay, makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like there's like some physical traits as well. They mentioned walking and swallowing.
Yeah, sometimes you can have like if your neurons aren't all firing, you can lose like some physical ability like that too. Like possibly the things that we don't think about doing. We don't think about swallowing. Like when you're eating, you just sort of do it, right? Because it's just a process. But then, they'll be like, I can't figure out how to swallow, or they might not be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, things that you do all the time, you shouldn't have to think about breathing. You shouldn't have to think about walking or swallowing or whatever. That should just happen. Yeah,
it always reminds me of that when you said that, like reminded that joke I heard as a kid, like someone had like earphones on and they went to and the person's like, don't take my earphones off if you cut my hair. And then they go, well, why? And so the person falls asleep. And when they go to put the earphones on, it was like, breathe in, breathe out. It was like showing it was a blonde joke, but I was not
Thanks, buddy.
I was trying to hold that back, but yeah, I don't know. It just reminded me of that.
That's probably very, very true. And then we talked about, not recognizing people or places or, knowing where you are.
That constant confusion or, again, just being aggressive with certain behaviors.
Why does aggression become a thing? Out of frustration or?
I mean, I just don't, I think that you just sort of lose the sense to, like we talk about rationalization, you sort of lose that sense. You sort of lose the cognitive ability to stop and think for a moment. You just sort of, it's just sort of a reaction or anything.
You're not making that decision. It's
just reacting. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Sam, I'm going to ask you, can you aim your mic up just a little higher? Your beard is right into the mic.
Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Was it being scratchy?
Yeah, you just hear the hairs going across.
Oh, nice. Well, thanks for telling me 30 minutes into this.
Well, no, it didn't happen until just now.
Okay.
That's one I haven't heard before.
Right? Yeah. Thanks. Now my face is red.
No, not at all. Okay, so what else do you want to discuss today?
I think basically, this kind of just goes in with adult health, aging adult health. So, try to try to exercise as much as you can. I know like Marcia, you've met Marcia.
Yeah.
She's holding like Tai Chi classes here in Jackson as well. So those are something that are very low impact that you can do. Jigsaw puzzles are a good cognitive sort of thing to work on. Crossword puzzles, word searches. Any of those sort of little things that try to keep your brain going.
And the good thing is if you can't get out and get a crossword puzzle book or whatever, these things right here, you can download all kind of fun stuff on
there. And I know that, some of us might get annoyed at the sounds of like the Candy Crush and all those little games, but those keep you sort of like your cognitive sort of functioning. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes it's just me like zoning out and swiping my finger any which way, but if you actually like try to like think and like, all right, I'm going to do this way so that I get all, and you try to sort of think ahead, almost like chess moves. Be like, well, if I move this one, maybe all of these will jump down and I can get a bigger score, like
absolutely.
Whatever. So,
depends on how you're either doing it to relax, but you can also do it to exercise your brain.
100%.
I like those, the ones like the escape room ones because you really have to think about those, the games where you like have to like solve puzzles
like on your
stuff.
phone or is it, I haven't seen any of those. I just know they physical escape rooms and I'm like if it's made out of drywall, I ain't gonna be kept in. Like
I'm a big dude. I'm just going through that wall.
I will shoulder check for sure.
Don't put any little children in there with him because they're gonna get flattened.
Yeah.
No, are you claustrophobic? Because I'm
just a little.
I'm super claustrophobic.
I can go under like the water in a pool or a lake or something like that. But like for some reason, like in the shower, like I cannot have the shower like hitting me right in the face because then I feel like I can't breathe. Yeah. Or if it's like going over my head and it starts going towards the front.
I can see that.
It's I
don't know if it's a control thing or what, but yeah, like water isn't so bad for me because I think I know, you can resurface, but like rooms or like the escape room thing and like I love that problem solving and all of that, but I'm like, I don't know as far as like a physical escape room. Unless they told me like at the beginning, if you panic, like that door right there, you can get out like no matter what.
Yeah.
Because if not, I would just spend my entire time panicking and not solving the puzzle.
I'm not sure how I would. I've never actually done one. I know some friends that have partook, but I don't know how I would react.
Well,
actually.
I had somebody was telling me they went to one, and I think this would completely freak me out. That like they went in this escape room and it was like a zombie one, and there was like a zombie on a chain, which was like a human,
right?
And like after every so many minutes, like the zombie would like get closer to you, and you couldn't let the zombie touch you. And I'm like, I think that would, I
No.
would just lose my mind.
No, thank you.
That.
Haunted houses don't know.
Yeah,
no, I don't do any of that well either.
Sam flattens
dude,
Michael Myers on his way out the door.
I've elbowed a Freddy. I know. It was like a Freddy coming up out of. I think it was in I want to say 4th grade.
Oh God, it was that long ago.
Oh yeah, 4th or 5th. Yeah, I don't go to this. Why? Because I'm this is my reaction. No, thank you. But yeah, this dude I don't even think it was a Freddy. It might have been a vampire source, but he pops up out of his little coffin and he goes, and I was like, nope. Bam. He just took off running. I'm like, no, this does not work for me. Yeah, I don't react well when I'm scared. So
I can remember. I feel you. So my haunted house trauma story was same. I was young, and where David Furby's office is now in Jackson, there used to be. I think it might have been back then the JCs or somebody put on a haunted house. And I remember being young and Dad taking me through it. And they had a chainsaw, but it didn't have the chain on it.
Oh, yeah.
But in your young mind, you're going to lose your leg, right?
100%.
And they knew my name because right. It's a small town and they're going, Jennifer! And they're chasing me with this chainsaw. And I literally lost my marbles and thought I was going to die for sure. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to go in that anymore.
Yeah, right after that guy who hissed at me, I go out because they were escorting me out, right? Because they were
because you elbowed somebody.
Legit, I'm getting escorted out, and I think it was like I said, 5th grade or something. And so I'm getting escorted out, and then the chainsaw guy, right, decides to do his little piece.
Uh-huh.
No, I literally took off running, and I've never tried to climb a fence since, but it was one of those. It was in a city pool where they had it, right. So it was one of the fences that were really high, and I got halfway up to it, and I'm one of those a cat on a drape, no, thank you.
I feel you, brother.
I'm good.
Yeah, not good. Yeah. So this is how big of wussies we are.
Oh yeah, total. Yep. Yeah, I don't.
But so, all right. So, let me ask you this. Are there resources for somebody? What's your first step? If maybe you yourself are concerned about your cognitive, maybe you're just freaked out a little bit about things that are happening, or you see a family member that's starting to struggle a little bit, where do you start?
I mean, I think, you do have to be careful of doing some self education, but I mean the resources are the information is out there.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the information that I pulled off for this was from the aging adults society sort of things that are here in the state, and also neuroscience sort of thing and Yale. So if you're going to do research some actual places, entities that are here. You can get a hold of our, the health department. They do a lot of things with aging adults as well, so they can kind of help you navigate.
Or, at least get you headed in the right direction.
Yep.
Or start with if you have a family doctor.
The doctor is the most. But if you, again, if you're I want to do it today because sometimes you can't get in the doctor, just sort of answer some questions. You can literally go on Google and ask Google the question that you're asking, and it'll pop up an answer and give you, because that's how I treat it. I'm how does dementia affect the population? Which all these different sort of questions that I have. I just
makes sense,
and it'll give you up the answers. And normally, sometimes, right, you get those sponsored answers. Don't click on those.
No, click on real places.
Right. If it says .gov or if it's affiliated with some sort of medical thing, definitely go towards that.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, because the sponsored ones are self-serving.
100%.
I'm selling a dementia pill.
Yeah, or Medicare plan or something,
Yeah.
Medicaid plan, or because like that's what a lot of times you'll see those Google sponsored ads, and sometimes they're even fake and they're scams.
Yes.
So I don't
really
care.
Careful about that.
Yeah, I don't care I don't care if it says Amazon. I don't click on a sponsored ad. No, thank you.
So speaking of, James and I were talking about domain names the other day and stuff like that. And so this is totally off the subject, but it reminded me of it. So we were talking about it because we have in town, John was in the other day talking about Truth Sports, and it's basically like for kids, they have, soccer and all of this stuff. And his website is truthsports.fun. And I was like, well, .fun. Like, I'd never heard of that before. I'm like, how many whatevers are there? Mm-hmm. So James gets out his computer. And so he's like, well, let's use the brewery as an example. Like, what domain names are 6 cents whatever? And there was one that popped up, and it was 6 cents sucks.
6 cents sucks.
There's a sucks.
Could have been yours for just $70.
I would have bought it.
I'm like, so there's a everything now.
Oh, yeah.
So stick with the ones that you know, though.
Yeah,
like
that you
.gov,
recognize.
.com, whatever. Sucks. I don't know that I'd be real happy about clicking on.
Those other extensions are probably become more and more popular.
They probably are, as people.
Because there's a limit to how many .com email addresses.
Right, like .com whatever is taken up a lot, but
yeah, I mean, my email address is .us. So
yeah,
but yeah, and then there's some that's .org, which I've heard of, obviously, but .sucks.
.sucks. I was like, that's really a thing. We laughed so hard about that. We're like,
I don't know why you didn't buy it.
Yeah,
James said if I didn't buy it, he was buying it for me.
I'll put up a fake 6 cents.
Sucks. I'm gonna pay to have that at the top of the list.
Try to open a new business with that website up there trolling you.
He's so mean. The problem is he has the brain power to do it and the knowledge to do it. That scares me a little. I have to keep him on my good side, won't I?
Yeah, do
it. But anyway, we digress. But so yeah, stick with the .govs and the .uses and the .coms and the whatever. Okay, so I see that you have
.edus.
Yes,
those are always good.
All of those. Yes. Yeah. I see that you have some common misconceptions listed.
Yeah. Obviously the number one we talked about earlier was dementia is not a disease. A lot of folks think that it is, but it just describes a group of symptoms where you're losing, the ability to think or remember things. They also, all types are the same. And in fact, there are many different types.
Right.
Though some are more common than others. And Alzheimer's being the most common that we're used to. And losing your memory and getting confused is a natural part of aging.
Which is so frustrating, because that's where we go back to our discussion earlier is what's normal and what's not.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people struggle with that.
Or
if you've had a stroke, a lot of times those symptoms resemble dementia symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
any other. There's lots of things.
Yeah, I mentioned to the radio, it was a year ago, August, that my father had that he had a stroke, but it was just a very mild stroke, and it didn't really affect too much of his brain. Like once they did the scans and all that, but him coming out of that for probably about 3 to 4 months just seemed like, it made me really worried, because I'm like, oh, is he losing it? Like what? Like you're not, you're getting scammed, you're barely responding to me, what's going on?
Right.
But now, a year later, he's back to driving. He's being his old self, a little aggressive in some areas. So, I'm trying to help.
Just keeping an eye on him.
Yeah. So I'm trying to help him kind of cure, that a little bit with some things. But yeah, it's a little different.
Those are all things that you need to have checked out if if you for sure, don't know.
Right. And I think like those scans also help. Like when we talked about like, are you genetically predetermined if you don't know, and if it's a little older, and you're like, I don't want, like, just go get a CAT scan, go get some scans. They'll be able to figure it out for you.
Yeah. And I will say the good thing about, modern medicine is there are so many more resources now than before. That people can get tested and stuff like that, and also receive care.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was like thinking about something else on here.
That's fine. I just said there's more resources now than there used to be.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
which
just
is
like
great.
The medication we talked about with that Yale University did the study on, that's made headways
It's
compared
like
to what
big
it used to
time.
be. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it was just recently too it was February of 2023, I believe, that it was done, or March, one of those two.
Yep. Dylan, did you have something?
I was just more curious. I was going through your Facebook, like Southeastern, search, and I see Overdose Awareness Day is today.
That is correct. Yeah, they're actually. So we are doing a lot of the Narcan sort of handouts and stuff as well. Through the health department, whether it's Ross County, Jackson County. Meg's is set up for the 9th of this month. So.
Okay.
Or
October.
Yeah,
or was it September?
It's September. Wait. What is today's date?
September.
Yes.
I don't know what month it is. Oh, God.
It's the end of August. So, yeah, September 9th is the date for that. So, definitely, check out our Facebook page. You can go on our website and find out all these awareness days and when we're handing out Narcans and other resources.
And we've talked about that too, and that's, kind of not the topic of our discussion today, but there are so many reasons why people should have access to that.
100%. It comes down to how I guess like the way I kind of look at it, it's a lot like, the health of women's rights, like as well. Like if you don't have any idea, then don't speak on it. You shouldn't be making laws about it if you have no idea about what's going on.
Amen. Thank you.
Sorry, that can just kind of get me riled up because, I just think that we have to help and support everyone. I mean, whether it's like sickness or you want to call it a disease or not, like, addiction is addiction. And unless you have personally gone through it or have a family member that has gone through it, same again, I don't care. It's same with women's rights as well. It's like keep it out of your mouth, because you have no right to make a law or anything based on something that you have no understanding of. And it's just based on how you feel or how you were taught for some reason.
Well, that goes back to having empathy, and there's a lot of that lacking in this world.
100%.
But Narcan can, in a way, be related to dementia because, somebody with dementia, it's very possible that they overdose.
Oh, 100%.
If they take, and that's a reason why you would use Narcan. So it's not just, someone OD'd on heroin, they deserve what they get situation.
No, it could be your grandma who took an opioid. I mean, I don't know. I just ended up watching this whole show on Netflix called Painkillers. And if you haven't watched it, I suggest, it can kind of get you toward the end, but it is a really good, show to just kind of show, the differences of how people either became addicted, and a lot of it just came through pain and through that whole year of OxyContin when, they were just prescribing it out for headaches, for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet we're, instead of, holding these folks accountable, we're trying to hold the addicts accountable, or we're trying to hold, the grandma who OD'd accountable, or we're trying to, it's just, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. So just think about, your grandma with dementia getting hold of, the opioids or whatever, and taking a handful of them not realizing what they're doing. And yeah, so there are many situations why we should have access to that.
Or they think that, they took their medication that morning, but they think, oh, it's the, instead of it being Tuesday, they think it's Wednesday, or whatever. I mean, and they could take, twice as much medication as they took that morning. It could be something as simple as that.
That's right.
And it could happen to any of us, honestly. I mean, we've talked about this sort of thing already, like forgetting folks' names. I mean, I forget my medication, like I have to get my little box.
So
right?
My husband does the same thing. He's got like the pill thing with the days on him.
I just bought my first one, and I'm like,
he's like, I've got to because I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only hitting 40 in January, so like I've already got I've already got my box.
But that's okay. That's like your busy day to day, and you just there's other things. Going on
I've got way too
way
too many other things going on for me to like have to remember if I took my medication or not.
That's just instilling a process or a system into your life to help it get easier.
I think so, especially once I'm older, right?
Yeah.
Like
just get in that habit.
Do it now.
Well, Sam, we've run out of time this morning, and it's always wonderful chatting with you.
Yeah.
And you always have such a great perspective on things. And
well, I appreciate that.
And we love having you here. So, is there anything else though that you would like to tell our viewers before you get out of here?
Basically, I'll be sending some info for you guys to kind of share at some point. But in September or later this month, I think it's the 23rd. There's going to be an event at the Bob Evans farm, and it's going to go to help raise money for the outreach center that's in Gallipolis. So basically, those guys have been around since the 70s, helping folks get clothing, shelter, food, like all these different things, and they need a new roof.
Okay.
So they need about, I think it's 13,800 left, and so this event will, once we get all the donations and all that stuff in, we'll see how much it'll be, or how much that we've raised. But yeah, that's going to be I don't know, music, mostly like faith-based organization sort of things. So there's going to be a lot of like gospel singing and activities for the kids, and the National Guard is going to be there. Field of Hope will be there from Bidwell. That's the women's shelter. So, yeah, a lot of folks are trying to come together to help this one little thing do some more good work in the area. So.
Very cool. Well, we'll be telling you about that pretty soon.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate
course.
Y'all very much. It's always a wonderful time.
That's right. We have a good time. All right. Even if it's a rough subject to talk about.
Even if it's a rough subject. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. Enjoy a little bit cooler weather, because as the weekend rolls on, it's going to be a lot hotter. So if you have anything to do outside, today's the day to do it. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Again, thanks for watching.